about Jerome as a kid? Were you like the naughty kid in the house? Were you?
No, I was very introverted. So I was very introverted, and I think because I was so introverted, I was drawn to film. So I started watching a lot of films because I didn't have that many friends. Now that I look back upon it, it was very weird. But I spent a lot of time watching films. There was something about films that I didn't know what a film director was, but I knew that somebody had to put things together, like a composer. Somebody had to get people to work together.
Yeah.
And yeah, growing up in a small town, there's not much to do besides watching films. I mean, I'd sneak into movies. Like they used to, like, there was at the Pick and Pay Center, there used to be a cinema, and I used to sneak in there, and they always used to, and eventually they felt bad for me, and they just let me stay. Yeah, they just let me in, but I used to sneak. I was obsessed. I don't know why, I was so obsessed with film from a young age.
Yeah. So, did your obsession then lead to your desires, or just wanting to become a filmmaker? Or did you actually also want to be a doctor or pilot one day?
No.
How did the filmmaking and making it a reality and actually happen?
You know, it's. I've never wanted to have like a normal job, like a 9 to 5. I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I think for me the biggest thing was always the two biggest things were making a film, even at a young age. So I was very fortunate. My dad had those big cameras, you know, with the VHS tapes on the side, and home videos were just coming into fashion, and I started playing with it, and I let my little brother or my niece to be like a gangster or you know, like
awesome.
You know, or like
household tootsie.
Yeah, like she's tied up and like he has to come, you know. Now it's not politically correct anymore. You can't tie a woman up, but back then this was the 80s, so yeah, that's where it kind of comes from.
Okay, cool.
And then the second thing obviously was trying to figure out how do you get to a point where you can actually make a film, like professionally, and that obviously came after high school.
And even just make a living off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your job now.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta eat.
Yeah.
Okay. And then tell me about your schooling. I mean, and let's get to the point of the where you ended up studying film.
Yeah.
And what that was like.
I went to the National School of the Arts. Now, rumor has it that Charlize Theron went there as well. That's like the claim to fame of the school. It's like fame. There's a lot of artistic kids that go there. There's drama, there's art.
Fame the movie.
Yeah, like Fame the movie. There's dancing. So it's a lot of top performers came out of that school. I don't want to name drop, but a lot of top performers. And I studied theatre. I studied acting, and I actually started acting in high school because I figured, well, let me understand how actors think and what the process is. And then I did the last 3 years of my schooling at National School of the Arts, and after that I did a year after. But because I'm a restless soul, I decided to go to the States and see what's going on there. Because we all grew up with American films.
Yeah. How long did you spend over there?
It's 2 years. 2 years.
And then after that, you came back here and just made it happen.
No, so I came back here, and I then entered into, long story to make it short, I met up with an old high school friend of mine, one of my best friends, and he was working for a company in Cape Town, that shoots commercials. And he said these guys are doing this competition where they run young filmmakers to write in and come up with cool ideas. It's an NSA, the abbreviation. What was the full acronyms? I hate acronyms.
Google it.
Yeah, so it's a PSA. So it was PSA, public service announcements, and you have to come up with a concept, and if your concept's good, then the production company will then fund your concept. And my concept was good enough. They funded my concept and ended up winning awards.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So I was quite young. I think I was 20. At the age of 23, I was a professional commercials director. I think I was the youngest in the country at that time.
And what kind of commercials did you make?
I've done so many commercials.
Can you still find them on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean YouTube, Vimeo, like a lot. I don't want to name drop brands. That's why I'm like trying to be careful. Give free advertising, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. And then horror movies specifically, is that your thing? Or
no, I'm a film guy. I like movies, but I like genre films. So what I always say, especially to young South African filmmakers, is that you need to understand that there are certain conventions to each genre. So if I'm going to make a film, I need to think, what film is this and what category does this film fall? And the reason why I chose horror is because horror is it's financially viable. It's actually the most profitable genre in the world.
oh wow.
Like out of all films,
Yeah.
like horror. Because horror, you can spend so little and make so much.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at something like the Blair Witch Project, which cost, I think, at the time $30,000, it made like $200 million worldwide. So, you know, your payoff with horror is quite big. And I also think horror is a great allegory to talk about social ills. You know, so like, I always, in my pitch to get the film made, I used to say things like, you know, these zombie films are actually about poverty, because you have all these people that need to constantly eat, and
You're fighting for it.
Yeah.
It's a struggle.
Yeah, and then you look at something like Jaws. Jaws was talked about the Nixon era, the Nixon corruption. So, you know, Get Out as well talks about racism. So these horror films, I think, can be a good allegory for a lot of our social ills without preaching to people.
Yeah, without it being redundant and monotonous. It's the same kind of just story that they're being told all the time. Now, tell me about the process of creating the horror.
Yeah.
Did you ever get scared at some point? Like, I can imagine creating the film, you're behind the scenes all the time, and you're making the magic happen, and you know, it's in your head, and like, you have to make it a reality. And at any time, tell us about rather the psyche, I think, that you kind of have to be in when you're creating this thing, and it needs to be scary. People need to...
Do you know the strange thing is, like, on the set of the film, it was actually very chilled. Because I wanted to keep the atmosphere quite light because of the subject matter. I didn't want people to, because we shot in the middle of winter. There was decay in the environment we're shooting. You know, we're shooting this old children's hospital in Johannesburg. So you're shooting, and then you get gunshots. You know, and so
for real?
yeah. So it's you know, you're in an environment that's already like quite hectic, and also the subject matter is hectic. So we're trying to keep things quite light. I think we prepped quite extensively, my team and I, not only from the production side, but also from the acting side, and just did the research, because ultimately it's about the audience has to experience the film through our characters, and I felt like you didn't have to add things on, because it was already so heavy. Yeah, the subject matter. Yeah.
And I can imagine. Well, we all know that kids and horror movies.
You have to have a kid in a horror movie. Yeah.
So what's that like, working with a kid and getting the child's psyche right, so that they portray what you want without kind of distorting their innocent little minds, and you know.
With kids, what we did with this film, the process was that we wanted to get as many young actresses in that we thought could pull it off. And we went through this whole long process, but eventually we settled on Kwande Nkosi, who is just like a phenomenal. I think she really is going to be, you know, she's one to look out for in the future. The South African industry's future looks very bright with her. With her, it's strange with her. She's so intuitive. You know, like, because the thing is, it's when you direct kids, you can't. You have to make certain situations or certain emotions relatable. So if you tell an adult, you know, to act a situation, then they can harvest from their memories, because memories are ultimately emotions. But with a kid, most children haven't experienced life, so they haven't experienced grief. So it was kind of trying to find that thing that she understands at that age as grief. Do you know what I mean? So the death of a dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then she has to work off that emotion, because for a kid that is a big deal. You know what I mean? because they don't understand like
Yes.
into human tragedy. So yeah, and like you say, you have to be careful with kids because you don't want to take them to a place where that could scar them for life. So I had to be quite protective about the young lady.
Yeah, sure, that's good. And then this process, this writing process, took something like 10 years.
Yeah.
Tell me about that process and why 10 years. What was this? Yeah.
So over the 10 years, when we started, my writing partner and I, Richard Kunzman, who was an acclaimed author, we met 10 years ago and we spoke about doing a horror film because we both just wanted to make a film. He'd always wanted to write a screenplay, step out of the literary world, and I always wanted to be a film director. I kind of stumbled into being a commercials director. And both our lives went on over the 10 years, he went on with his career, I went on with my commercials career. And over the years, we changed as people and the script changed. And I think because we changed as people, the script became a richer script because of that. I became a father, he became a father. I have a daughter, he has a son. So then you start looking at how what the world's going to be like, that our children are going to inherit one day. So all that you put into the writing. So, people say 10 years, but, that's kind of actually the norm. It's the norm in film, actually.
Yeah. See, we don't know that.
Yeah, it's actually the norm. The film that you see now that you're thinking like, wow, this is a new film. But in actual fact, it's taken like 10 years for the writer and the director to get to that point.
Yeah.
So film is a long process.
And it's beneficial because you really get to add a lot more content and rich content.
Yeah.
So now I'm very interested in the story, the real story here, and the real message, that the societal ill that you're trying to get across. Tell me about that as the director, and tell me about what it is that you want the audience to see, or that you want the audience to get from it.
So for me as a filmmaker, and I think just as a student of human nature, like just looking at society, a great film director, John Carpenter, said that there's only two types of evils in the world. There's the evil out there, and there's the evil within the human being. And I think with this film, what we did is we looked at both. We looked at the evil, the hostile universe that Pussy, the lead character, has to deal with. And we also look at the reservoir of pain and how it's changing and that she has inside her. So I think when without giving away too much, because it's so tricky to talk about it without giving away too much. But when you look at the film, I would say that it's about trauma. It's about how people deal with trauma, how people deal with societal ills, but almost in an hereditary way. Because because what is this Tokoloshe really?
Exactly.
I mean, what is this monster? And then we can look at how do you translate that monster into societal ill. And I found that it's strange how people react to this thing, like to the film, because when they go into the film expecting one thing, and it's completely something else. There is the stuff that you would expect from this type of film, but I think it is a much deeper film than what most people think it is.
And that makes me think about your international audience. Obviously, Europeans don't really know much about Tokoloshe per se. Obviously, they have their own kind of monsters and so on. How did they relate to that kind of South African narrative and that South African cultural mythical creature? Well, I mean, it's like you said, they have their own. I call it the boogeyman. Every culture has a boogeyman. One of our boogeymen is the Tokoloshe. It's strange because the reaction was so warm and receptive, because the film is topical. It's the setting to them is exotic because it's Africa, it's South Africa, but ultimately the story is universal. The story, like I said, it's about trauma, and now with all this, what we're seeing
with what's happening in the media and with the Me Too movement and feminism and and so forth, I think the film's becomes more topical. So it transcends just being a South African issue. It's actually a global issue.
Absolutely.
How we treat the most marginalized people in our society, women and children. And especially in this case, a black African woman.
Yeah, young black African woman. And let's talk about that. Well, just tell me briefly about the fact that the two of you are male writers, and you're writing about something that can be considered a feminist project. Tell me about the male perspective here, or just the message for the males that are watching this film. What do they need to know or hear or see?
So, I think with the whole discussion of feminism and Me Too and all these hot topics right now, I think that as men we have to be part of the discussion because we're part of the problem. Especially a certain demographic, and I think because of the genre of the film, you're going to be able to talk to that demographic directly, and the film confronts what is masculinity. We come from a very violent society, so it's actually perfect to put that in a horror film. Because for some people, because for some people their lives are a horror film.
Yeah.
But I do think, look, it's a classic tale of the victim becoming the victor, I'd say.
And the victim being a young black
Woman,
female overcoming her tragedies and rising.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We're going to end off now, and I think we need to just make it a little bit more local again. There's a lot of creatives in the city, in the Kimberley, environment, or even just in the Northern Cape. But a lot of them don't. I don't think a lot of them realize their own potential. First of all, so you really are quite a beacon of hope. To a lot of creatives out here who are hoping to go in the filmmaking industry or even just in, something similar. What would you like to tell them, to give them that little boost of, you guys can do this, because you've done it. If there's any kind of words of advice or encouragement that our young creatives need to hear.
I think, it's like, I did it, I'm from Kimberley. I don't know anybody in the industry. I'm not an insider. When I started off, I was, like everybody else, I was coming from the outside. I say you're born at a very fortunate time because of globalization, because of, the fact that equipment is so accessible, it's easily accessible. Growing up, we didn't have digital and all, when I started with film, but now you can look at YouTube tutorials, you can actually listen to Oscar-winning directors tell how they make their films work. So it's possible. It's ultimately about how badly do you want it, I think. That's what it comes down to. Fortitude.